On 15 September 2025, President Trump identified 20-odd countries as conduits or suppliers of drugs around the world, and India is one of them. While it is easy to say that a country is, producing drugs, yes, there is truth because there used to be production of drugs in Manipur, but this is now getting a little bit more into a bigger league. Is India going to do something about it? How did India's name came about? What are the other countries? Is poppy production still going on in Afghanistan? And the one thing that has been left out in this, US has not identified US itself as also a drug producing place, whereas there are evidences that things like meth is being done inside United States itself. So how can somebody who refuses to admit their own challenges and just point fingers at the others is a question for another day. Let's just take a look at the facts that have been presented in this, because it's important that India get its act together. It is my belief that if they net many of these culprits who are associated with the drug propagation in production and distribution, a lot of the political parties in India will find their leaders behind the bars. Here we go, small slide deck. As always, a request to like this video, and here we go.
Diagrama is a magic and unique place with an overwhelming history.
Diagrama is the most inspiring place I have ever visited. I am grateful to all.
Is India a major drug conduit, and how is it addressing this issue? On September 15th, like I said, President Trump submitted a presidential determination to Congress listing 23 countries, and I'll go through the 23 countries. This annual list, mandated by US law, highlights countries involved in the production or transit of illicit drugs and precursor chemicals that threaten US national security and public health. Like I said, US should have also included itself and also its agency, which is alleged to be one of the biggest beneficiaries of all this stuff, and money that comes from that is used for bad things. Anyway, that's something that will probably be asked. I'm asking that question today, that while you are doing all this, President Trump, you need to also say how CIA's reach is going to be curtailed, and that CIA doesn't start doing things which is very questionable. Does the United States Constitution provide CIA with the power to do all these things, like distribute drugs and take a cut off of that? So these are the questions that come in people's mind when they see a report like this. I'm hoping that the Trump administration will come clean and say, well, it may have been before, but now we have turned a clean page, and now we are going to be very, very clear about what the CIA will and will not do. So the designation is primarily based on geographic, commercial, and economic factors facilitating drug flows, rather than solely on a government's counter narcotics efforts or cooperation with the US. For example, India has been cooperating with the United States, but the problem is India has a huge population, 1.4 billion, and that monitoring the flow, what people are doing, that's no easy task. The countries listed are like Pakistan, Afghanistan, India, and China, and they are specifically called out for their roles, and I'll go through what India is accused of, and people need to be aware that this is happening all around us. And this is not just opium, but there are also chemically produced drugs like fentanyl. There is an even more deadly version of fentanyl that is now doing the rounds, I'm hearing, meth and precursor chemicals. What are the countries? The 23: Afghanistan, Ecuador, the Dominican Republic, Bahamas, El Salvador, Guatemala, Nicaragua, Belize, Haiti, Pakistan, Bolivia, Honduras, Panama, Myanmar, India, Peru, China, Jamaica, Venezuela, Colombia, Laos, Costa Rica, and Mexico. 5 countries were singled out for failing to adhere to international counter-narcotics agreements and take sufficient measures during the previous 12 months. Which are these 5 countries? Afghanistan, Bolivia, Myanmar, Colombia, and Venezuela. These designations call for improved efforts and may lead to US aid restrictions unless waived for national interest. See, now you understand the conflict off of the coast of Venezuela. and Trump saying that 3 boats carrying drugs have been sunk thus far. This is a message to the cartels. Don't even think about it. Presence on this list is not necessarily about the complicity of the government of that country. It could be network privately happening without the knowledge of the government, but US is trying to create that awareness, saying here is where we caught it, this is how the trail passed, because they'll catch somebody and they'll under interrogation reveal all these things. The designation is based on a country's geographic location, proximity to major opium and cocaine producing regions, and commercial and economic factors. Even countries with robust law enforcement can be listed if they form part of the trafficking corridors. Now, specific things. What is India being accused of? It's not a major cultivator like Afghanistan, and it shares borders with the Golden Crescent, such as Afghanistan, Pakistan, and Iran, and also the Golden Triangle, such as Myanmar, Laos, and Thailand. It's Myanmar that it has a border, but then adjoining to the Golden Triangle are those 3 countries. The drugs are trafficked through India. Which are the drugs? Heroin, synthetic drugs, and they are routed to Europe, Africa, and North America. Precursor chemicals, ephedrine, pseudoephedrine, I've done a program on this before, can be diverted to make meth. Now, China. China serves as the world's largest source of precursor chemicals used in illicit fentanyl production, as well as synthetic narcotics like nitazenes and methamphetamine, fueling global epidemics. Despite some actions, Chinese leadership is urged to implement a stronger, sustained measures to curb chemical flows and prosecute drug criminals facilitating trafficking. The US views China's role as a major supplier threatening American safety with calls for enhanced international cooperation. Next, Afghanistan. It remains the world's largest producer of illicit opium. Looks like they've turned the production back on, with production fluctuating but persisting despite the Taliban's announced bans. Expanding meth production sustains international drug flows. Drug revenue funds transnational criminal groups and international terrorists, with some Taliban members profiting from the trade. Designated as having failed demonstrably due to threats to US interests and global security, despite geographic and economic factors enabling ongoing stockpiles and exports. Do you know that close to 40,000 American interests are in Afghanistan still? They are in part of Bagram, but 40,000 would not be fitted in that one place. This is all allegations. It is believed that there are many private military contractors and many others. So we don't know what exactly it is that they are doing still in Afghanistan. Pakistan acts as a primary transit route for Afghan heroin and other opiates, particularly through the port of Karachi, heading to Europe and the Middle East. I've talked about this in a couple of my books, so you will remember what happens. Pakistan shares border with major production areas on the Golden Crescent, facilitating cross-border smuggling. Economic and commercial factors, including trade routes, make it a conduit for drugs and precursors, contributing to broader South Asian networks affecting the United States. Next, Myanmar or Brahmadesa. This is part of the Golden Triangle, historically one of the largest opium producing areas. The shift towards synthetic drugs like hub for meth called Yaba tablets, crystal meth, and what happens is it gets produced here and it gets trafficked into India, Bangladesh, and Southeast Asia. We've been talking about Manipur, Mizoram, Nagaland, that belt being one of the places through which all these things comes in. India has taken concrete measures to, for example, destroy opium production in the hills of Manipur state. All that has happened, but it's not stopped all this smuggling going on. So this is a clear and present danger. India is tackling it. At the same time, this is not something that could adversely affect India, because India does not rely on the US for any aid at this point of time, as far as I know. Now, why are these countries listed? Because of the proximity to production zones like either the Golden Crescent or the Golden Triangle, or strategic locations for transit like ports, borders, etc. And they also have trading hubs, shipping routes, and industries that allow production or diversion of precursors even with diligent law enforcement. If some country like India or China is producing a lot of chemicals, some of these precursors can be derived from that, like dual use, and these things have to be looked at very carefully. The presence on the list does not imply complicity or ineffectiveness. Cooperative nations like India can still be listed due to inherent vulnerabilities. Now, if you take a look at it, this is one of the maps that shows you how all these opiates and cocaine are trafficked around, and you can see the two places where the productions are all in squares, and that tells you what kind of drug is being produced: opium, coca, and so on and so forth. Now, what are these? Opiates are opium poppy, primarily in the Golden Crescent, Afghanistan area, and also in the Golden Triangle. Cocaine is concentrated in South America, especially the Andean regions of Colombia, Peru, and Bolivia, and it accounts for most US bound cocaine. Now, opiates red line from the Golden Crescent routes extend through Pakistan and India to Europe via the Balkan route, the Middle East, and potentially the US Asia via maritime paths. From the Golden Triangle, it flows through Southeast Asia to markets in Asia, Australia, and beyond, often via land borders with India or sea routes. Cocaine originates from South America, and primary paths cross Atlantic to North America or use the Central American transit points like those listed, Panama, Costa Rica, into Europe. This whole map underscores interconnected global flows. Opiates from Asia dominate routes affecting the US indirectly via precursors, synthetics, while cocaine routes highlight a Latin American focus. This aligns with the list's emphasis on transit hubs like India and Pakistan, bringing production to consumption markets. So this is a moving target. It takes time to finish and clean up all these things, but I'm hoping that the first thing that needs to happen is awareness, then go after all those entities that are aiding and abetting this and act strictly. Thanks for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe to our channel. Don't forget to click on the bell button for notifications. Namaskar.